On July 10, 2016, on a quiet street in Taiwan, two men wearing fisher hats and medical masks casually approached a bank ATM. They didn't insert a card or hit any buttons. While one of them kept watch at the entrance, the other just stood in front of the machine doing nothing, simply waiting. Then, without a warning, the machine whirred to life. Banknotes began pouring out onto the ground. The men grabbed the cash, stuffed it into their bags, and slipped away. This incident wasn't just a one-time thing. Surveillance footage caught the same creepy scene of ATMs randomly spitting out cash all over Russia, Ukraine, Europe, China, and the US. But that wasn't all. Authorities would soon discover that this phenomenon was just the tip of the iceberg. Behind these mysterious ATM heists lay one of the most sophisticated hacking groups in history, a Russian group known as Carbanak.
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 Months before the ATM incidents, an unsuspecting bank employee in a big Russian bank sat at his desk. This employee had the bad habit of postponing security updates. And while he was going through his regular day tasks, skimming through his inbox, among the usual flood of emails, meeting requests, security updates, and bank memos, one email caught his attention. The subject line was urgent. The email resembled the usual official communications employees receive from the bank administration, including a Word document attachment about new federal law regulations. Without a second thought, he clicked the attachment, but nothing happened. No error message, no pop-up window, just a brief flicker on his screen. He mimed and moved on with his day, unaware that he had just opened the doors to the biggest bank cyber-heist in history. The attachment had installed malware, a powerful backdoor called Carbanak. Within minutes, the malware began to spread, weaving its way through the bank's internal network like a digital parasite. And just like that, Carbanak had just entered the system. With the malware in place, the attackers began their surveillance. They monitored employee activities, studied the bank's systems, and gathered critical information. This was no ordinary hack. They were learning, adapting, and preparing for something huge. For the next 6 months, the hackers didn't steal any money. Instead, they watched. Every keystroke, every login, every internal procedure. They studied it all. They watched the bank's security cameras and computer screen recordings, and observed all bank employees' activities, including transferring funds, approving transactions, and accessing critical systems. But gaining access and watching the bank's operation wasn't enough for Carbanak. They needed full control. To achieve this, they used a simple yet brilliant social engineering trick. One of Carbanak's members slowed down one bank computer using a custom malware program designed to consume the computer's memory and cause performance issues. This was a deliberate smart tactic to frustrate the bank employee who was using the computer, pushing him to call the IT support department for immediate help. When the IT guy responded, he had to type in the administrator password in order to troubleshoot and fix the problem. The hackers intercepted the help desk session and recorded the admin credentials. Eventually, the IT guy managed to fix the issue. But by then, Carbanak had already obtained the admin password. With that, Carbanak got its hands on the bank's main domain controller. It is the most important server in the bank, granting unrestricted access to the bank's entire system. They can now control literally everything across all branches of the bank, from manipulating accounts, authorizing transactions, and installing further malware across the network. In simple words, Carbanak became the bank itself. Carbanak used 3 clever ways to steal money from banks. The first and foremost way was to create fake employees within the bank's payroll system. These weren't ordinary ghost accounts. They were complete with detailed work histories, access permissions, and monthly salaries. When payday came, millions of dollars were funneled into offshore accounts belonging to Carbanak. No red flags were raised because from the bank's perspective, these were legitimate employees receiving legitimate wages. This provided Carbanak a steady monthly cash flow that allowed them to shift their focus to their other operations. Their second method was remote controlling ATMs, or ATM hijacking. Carbanak's hackers had discovered a way to manipulate bank software and make ATMs dispense cash on command. Money mules, operatives working for Carbanak, would be waiting nearby, collecting the cash before disappearing into the crowd. This practice continued for an impressive duration of 2 years. It unfolded in ATMs across 20 countries around the world. With this method, Carbanak managed to steal up to $5 million a month. Interestingly, 10% of the money goes to the mule, while an astounding 90% is distributed to the group. By the time banks noticed the missing funds, the money had already vanished without a trace. But it doesn't stop here. Carbanak's third method was their boldest trick. They increased balances for bank customers' accounts, and then withdrew the same amount they added so that no suspicions were raised. For example, they would add $10,000 to a customer's account, and then, after exactly 9 hours, they would quietly transfer the same amount to themselves. Why 9 hours? This is because banks monitor account balances every 10 hours. By waiting exactly 9 hours, they allow enough time to prevent suspicion, yet not so long that there isn't any noticeable balance discrepancy. With this last method, they stole more than $300 million from banks all over the world. One night in early 2014, at exactly 3 a.m, a Kaspersky Labs employee wakes up on a phone call. It was a bank employee working as an account manager for one of the Russian banks. Sounding very paranoid, worried that his phone and computer were hacked, he insisted on an urgent personal meeting.
Эй, Евгений, это ты? Да. Слушай, мне нужно, чтобы ты немедленно пришел в банк.
Сейчас уже после полуночи. Что происходит?
Я не могу говорить по телефону. Я думаю, что он подключен.
The Kaspersky specialist went to the bank and began his investigation right away. He started by searching the bank's network for malicious software, and soon discovered that a remote access screen sharing program, VNC or virtual network computing, was installed on many computers in the bank. This software allows hackers to watch and control a computer from afar. When Kaspersky's team questioned the bank about it, they learned that no one had ever installed it. This raised suspicions that someone was spying on the bank. To put this to the test, the Kaspersky guy at the bank opened a blank Word document on one of the computers. He typed, "Hello," in the Russian language, and waited for a few minutes. Suddenly, the mouse cursor began moving on its own, and letters popped up in the document. The hacker had taken control over the computer, and replied in Russian, "Hello, you won't catch us." The Kaspersky employee replied back, "We will catch you." The hacker answered, "No, you won't catch us." And from that moment, one of the most exciting quests in history began. In 2015, Kaspersky Lab and Interpol exposed the heist publicly. By the time banks finally realized they were being robbed, the chase had become global. Banks went on red alert, and governments around the world went into full panic mode. If criminals could control banks this easily, the entire global economy was at risk. Banks tried to cover it up, reporting their losses as operational failures to avoid mass panic, and quietly began to strengthen their security measures. Authorities and cybersecurity experts from around the world combined efforts to track down the evasive Carbanak group, including Kaspersky, Europol, the European Banking Federation, EBF, along with the largest banks that were affected by the crime. However, during that period, specifically after the Word document conversation between the hackers and the Kaspersky specialist, Carbanak dramatically stepped up their game. They began using highly innovative and complicated techniques that captivated the cybersecurity landscape. to the extent that the Kaspersky team soon realized it's impossible to technically beat those hackers.
Carbanak was a game changer.
Is there anything we can do about this attack? Nothing!
The hackers were right. Their response to that Word document was true. They are unattainable. Kaspersky team soon declared that those hackers can only be identified and captured using traditional methods. Police forces across various countries were on high alert. A large number of units began analyzing both past and current surveillance footage, and they also flooded the streets in huge numbers. For over a year, the tension was tangible, and the situation had never been more serious. In early December 2016, two mule members of the Carbanak group attempted to withdraw cash from an ATM in Taiwan that dispensed a large sum of money as they approached it. However, when another bank customer approached the ATM, the pair got nervous and quickly left, abandoning a significant amount of the cash. As the customer arrived to the ATM, he saw a large pile of banknotes lying on the floor. Imagine this same situation happening to you. What would you do if you were in his shoes? How would you react? Share your honest thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Now back to that bank customer. As soon as he sensed that something was wrong, he quickly left the ATM and called the police. Upon reviewing the surveillance footage, the police discovered that the machine had dispensed cash without the suspects ever touching it. This clue kicked off a pursuit. The authorities traced the suspects' movements on the CCTV network and caught them in the hotel where they were staying. After this incident, Taiwanese police were able to identify 20 other mules. However, only 3 were caught, while the other 17 had already left the country. The 3 arrested mules received a prison sentence of more than 4 years. When police captured them, they were carrying large amounts of cash in bags, and by that, the Taiwanese police had successfully recovered a significant portion of the stolen ATM money. But the problem was that the young men who were captured were just pawns in a much bigger scheme, and the recovered money came only from one of the hackers' methods, which represented only a small portion of the total stolen amount. However, a surprising twist occurred after the arrest. One of these mules held a piece of information worth $1 billion. On his phone, police found photos of large stacks of banknotes in different currencies all sent to one specific email address. This discovery led cybersecurity companies to work together with the Interpol, Europol, FBI, and authorities of various nations to investigate the situation. They soon discovered that this email address belonged to the Mastermind, Dennis Katana, the sole planner of the most dangerous bank heist in history. He is, without a doubt, the most powerful hacker in the world. After identifying the mastermind, they realized he enjoyed a luxurious and exclusive lifestyle in Spain, complete with a grand house, a wife, and a young child. He possessed an impressive crypto portfolio of approximately 15,000 bitcoins, valued at around $162 million at the time. Today, those same bitcoins would amount to nearly $1 billion. Interestingly, these 15,000 bitcoins were legitimately acquired, with no stolen assets or suspicious transactions within his digital wallet. This indicated he was already wealthy long before initiating the Carbanak operation. In the end, the story shows a personal challenge he took on, not just for money, but to prove his exceptional ability to hack any financial giant and bypass any digital fortress. Dennis kept his bitcoins untouched in his account while secretly stealing and spending money from banks. This turned out to be his biggest mistake, as Kaspersky was unable to determine the owner of the exposed email address. They suspected about 30 people, and Dennis was one of them, standing out as the most unusual and obscure. For this reason, the police began monitoring all his financial activities, and each transaction he made provided them with new leads. It wasn't until they confirmed he was the email's owner and the leader of the Carbanak gang that they took action. In early 2018, police raided his home. His computer was open and unlocked without a password. This was the coup de grace. Although all the gang members found on his computer had fake names, but they realized who Carbanak was. It wasn't just another group of hackers, it was an entire organization structured like a multinational corporation. Unlike traditional cybercriminal gangs, Carbanak operated with military-like precision. They had specialized teams dedicated to specific tasks: infiltration, surveillance, financial fraud, and money laundering. Denis, the Ukrainian mastermind, coordinated operations and distributed stolen funds through a web of offshore accounts. Below him, a core team of elite hackers and penetration testers comprised of around 10 to 15 members developed sophisticated malware, while social engineers crafted phishing attacks to manipulate bank employees. Carbanak's infrastructure was vast. They operated from different countries using encrypted communication channels and false identities to evade law enforcement. They also recruited approximately 30 to 40 money mules, some of whom were insiders within financial institutions. The mule's job was to withdraw money from ATMs and move it through various financial channels. Parallel to them, a specialized team of financial experts and launderers worked behind the scenes to clean and legitimize the stolen money. To sustain and expand their reach, Carbanak even had its own version of an HR department, recruiters who continuously found and hired new mules willing to take the risks. They even bribed low-level bank employees to gain access to sensitive information. Their goal wasn't just to steal money. It was to control banks from the inside, launching a massive silent heist, manipulating banks and their systems like puppets on a string. With the mastermind taken down, Carbanak's epic heist came to a blunt end. The police seized 2 BMWs, $500,000 worth of jewelry, and the 15,000 bitcoins he owned. Yet the most significant portion of the stolen $1 billion is still missing to this day. After 1 year of secret investigations, the Interpol arrested 3 other members of Denis's network. However, until this day, no one knows anything about his other network members, which consisted of over 30 hackers and social engineers. And cybercriminals still use many of Carbanak's techniques today. Even worse, after Carbanak's downfall, its surviving members rebranded and evolved into Fin7, another highly sophisticated cybercriminal group. Some sources claim that Denis and his group were part of the Russian cyber army, and that everything they did was supported and backed by Russia. But there is no official source or evidence to support this claim. In all cases, Carbanak proved that the biggest bank robberies don't need guns or getaway cars, just knowledge, patience, and a computer. Their heist changed cybersecurity forever. Their ingenious techniques taught other criminals many tricks. The financial system remains vulnerable today, and another heist can happen using the same methods. Do you believe Denis was part of a cyber army, or was he merely a genius testing his wits? Write us in the comments. And if you love deep dives into true crime and cybersecurity mysteries, subscribe and hit that notification bell, because the next big cybercrime story could be about your bank. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay curious.